Welcome to your marketing and communications budget, something that has probably been the topic of cuts at many board meetings, but I'm here to continue to reinforce that you should not cut your marketing budget because it's like cutting off your own feet. But just how should you think about how much money you should be spending on marketing? I want to give you some language today and some ideas to think about that. And also at the end, I have a solid number for you because sometimes we just need to start somewhere. And I am so pleased to have a great number for you. So, wow, I made this kind of big chart. There are a couple things I want you to think about what you might actually, what is this marketing budget anyway, and this marketing line item that ends up on so many budgets? Well, marketing actually plays a key role in 3 areas of our nonprofit. And those are filling our programs and making sure that our programs best meet the hopes, dreams, desires, and needs of the people who use them. Marketing actually plays a role. Human resource departments need to be able to fill your organizations if you have staff with great people who want to work for you. The best people, you're in competition with other nonprofits. And of course, your donors, I could have written development, but honestly, it didn't fit in the box. But development, fundraising, that part of your organization also needs marketing for reaching your donors, finding new donors, and getting your donors to give you money. So these are the 3 things. Now you may have one budget line item and you may think of we need our budget activities to all work together to accomplish all 3. And that might really make sense for your organization. Or you might have kind of micro marketing budgets in addition that are kind of dedicated to your programming in general, or even each program can have a little bit of marketing that you're allocating specifically for them. Now, if you have a new program that has just started, you definitely need some initial marketing oomph as you get going. So if it's new, definitely add in kind of an investment period for marketing as you start that new program. Another thing to think about is there are kind of 3 levels at which you're spending money on marketing. There's research, right? And you're going to do this especially when you start a new program or if your nonprofit is new. Some of the things that need to be researched are understanding who your audience is and where they are, learning your own capacity. How much are you able to do when you think about what expertise do you have? How much time do you have? What comes to you naturally? I think I said this in another training. Trainings like this are very easy for me to do in that they leverage my expertise. It is not labor intensive or energy consuming to create them and deliver them. Just so happens the way my brain works, writing blog articles is the complete opposite. It drains the life out of me. So what are you naturally good at? What is your team capable of? How much time do you have to spend on it? And refining your offerings, whether it's refining a program, your how you think about your team, how attractive it is, your job positions, or your donors. Do you have things that meet their needs? Or what are their needs? What are their true desires? So that's a research piece you might be putting money into. You might also be needing to invest in strategy. And investing in strategy when it comes to marketing kind of tends to be a little punctuated, right? You're going to invest in creating a strategy. You're going to execute it for a while. You're going to refine it, or you're going to be like, that totally was terrible, and we're going to try a whole new strategy. If you have a good strategy, though, you should be able to maintain it by continually refining it. And some of the expenses, time and money that go into strategy building for marketing are the time for planning, working with experts, prioritizing how you're going to do it, timing, project planning, all those kinds of things. You might be setting up new tools in preparation for executing the strategy. And then finally, there's actually the executing of the marketing. So that's just doing the work. You might still be working with experts to help you do the work. And then ad spending. And I'll just throw in a little note because so many people don't know this about marketing. If you hire somebody to do your Facebook ads or your Google ads, you are paying them to manage your ad dollars. But the amount of money you pay them directly doesn't usually include the amount of money you are also going to spend on advertisements. So you may know Google AdWords has a $10,000 grant for AdWords that they give nonprofits. You still may need to spend money on a human being who knows how to make Google AdWords work and can manage your account for you. Those are two sets of expenses that both are involved with executing marketing. So now you're probably like, oh God, all these things. Well, how are we going to figure it out? One more point to stick in your heads before we make it super, super simple is there's kind of, are you growing? Are you needing to add revenue to your organization? I'd say raise your hand just at home in your own seat. Be like, are you needing more revenue? Yes, then you're growing. Or you just be like, we have enough revenue. We just want to maintain. So you need to know that about yourself, because if you want to increase your revenue, you need to spend more to be in the growing phase. And if you're just maintaining, then you can kind of spend a little less. And I want to just put this little image in your head, right? So you can spend less if you're in maintenance mode. And typically, maintenance mode kind of happens as your brand power increases. So this could be you have a huge number of existing donors who all know, like, and trust you. They're on board. They know who your organization is and they love it, and they're just going to keep giving because they have this in their head that they love your organization. And brand, again, it's if your organization were a person, the brand is like how we kind of humanize organizations. We give them personalities and values so that we can identify with them. So those are two things. But most nonprofits who I know need to be in the growing mode. They're saying we don't have enough money to do the things we need to do. And while there are various activities that generate revenue. In fact, if you've watched my budget training, if you haven't, send me a message and I'll send you a link to it. You will realize that the majority of your expenses should either be correlating to, they should be a revenue generating expense, or they should be a mission delivering expense. I like to think of it as pie. You're either making money pie or you're making mission pie. So you hopefully are beginning to get a sense of knowing which of your expenses are revenue generating expenses. And one of the most important revenue generating expenses is your marketing activities. So how much, though, should we spend on marketing? Well, I wanted to answer this question in a better way because I've heard everything all over the place, and I wanted to give you a number that you can really start thinking about for your organization. So what I did was I decided I would pull some data both about how much it costs fundraising people to raise $1, and also how much for-profit businesses who are successful spend on marketing. So I'm going to first talk about those for-profit businesses because I've shared some similar numbers with nonprofit audiences before, and they were floored by how much for-profit businesses are spending on their marketing. So here I have a chart. These are some all publicly traded companies, and what you'll see is this red line, while it's a little fluctuates a bit more, really follows the same kind of trend as this blue line. So what are these lines, you ask? Or maybe you were just reading the labels in this graph. This blue line represents the percentage of revenue, total money coming in, growth year over year. So that means how much more money did we bring in this year as compared to last year. And then this red line is the percentage of that total money that came in. How much of that money did they spend on marketing or sales and marketing? And you will see that pretty much the more money they spent on sales and marketing, the greater their growth. Now remember, if you raised your hand before and said, we need more money coming in every year, you are trying to grow. So I'll point out some other things too. How much money are we talking about here? Well, let's start down at the bottom. There was a company that only invested about 8% of its revenue in marketing, and guess what? It shrunk. Who here, raise your hand in your head if you feel silly at home alone, but put in the comments of who here would hate the idea of less money coming in next year as compared to this year. So then these people who had a little bit of growth, they tended to invest 25%, a little more, in their marketing and sales. And then these companies who are really making a lot of money, and noticed these people have brand power already going for them, and yet they're still making this kind of investment. Google, everybody has heard of Google, and Google's still spending well over 25% of its total revenue on marketing. Salesforce has been growing aggressively. You probably have heard of them. Salesforce is spending close to 75% of all money coming in on its marketing activities, sales and marketing activities. So if you were thinking, oh, we're going to spend, you know, a couple $1,000s and maybe that represents 2% of all the money coming in, that is why you don't have enough money. That's the short answer. You don't have enough money because you're not spending a large enough percentage of your money on marketing related activities. So I told you I'd give you a real number, right? And I didn't make a slide for the average cost to raise $1. And I've included a link, which we'll put in the show notes, that is like a great article about how the kind of statistics, how people actually measure the cost to raise $1 vary so much. We can't totally count on that number. But basically, as I looked at different sources, somewhere around 25% of $1 is the cost to raise that dollar, right? Now, what did that say to me? Well, I'll let you answer this question. If for-profits, and there shouldn't be a space there, but if for-profit organizations who are needing to grow are spending 25% of their total revenue and up, and nonprofits have an average cost to raise $1 of 25%, how much of your total income should you be spending on marketing? Put it in the comments if you're with me live. Put it in the comments if you're watching the rerun. How much of your total revenue should you be spending on marketing related activities? If you're thinking, oh my God, we've been spending way too little, you're probably right. What this tells me is 25% is probably your minimum number. And if you need a lot more revenue, you should make that number as high as you possibly can. So, as always, if you are now freaking out and going, oh my God, how could we ever accomplish that? We're nowhere near that. We can't afford to spend 25% of our revenue on marketing related activities. Please schedule a free, completely free consultation call. It's actually a consultation call, not a big sales pitch. And I would be happy to look at how you're structured and help you identify how to get from where you are now to spending 25% or more on marketing related activities. And I can tell you part of the problem or part of the solution is that you probably have some things that are really revenue generating marketing activities that you never really realized were those activities. Or you have activities that you're doing that aren't actively marketing activities, but could easily, with a few tweaks, continue to do all the good work that they're set out to do right now, but could be turned into marketing activities and do double duty at the same time. Thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking with you one-on-one if you're interested in that.